So the one thing that is still a little bit worrying about inflation this year is really shelter costs. So if we look at what was driving inflation at its peak way back in 2022, this dark blue line is really about supply chains. A lot of the talk about supply chains being impaired. That was causing massive delays in shipping goods all over the world. And you can see the contribution from inflation just from those impaired supply chains. You have a laser point. It was about 2% on its own. That's over. Supply chains are back to healthy, normal kind of processing levels. Energy prices were the next one. After the invasion of Ukraine, oil prices spiked. That was a big driver of inflation. That's also over. Gas prices are really low right now. Food costs are still kind of high, but coming down. At least food inflation is coming down. So that should start to settle over the next year. That kind of leaves us with the bulk of inflation right now is being driven, the green in this chart, is being driven just by shelter costs. So shelter is 30% of how we calculate inflation. It's a huge weight. Most of that is ownership housing, about 2/3 of it. And a lot of that is mortgage interest rate costs. So right now, year over year, mortgage interest rate costs are like 27% higher than they were last year. They're not going to be 27% higher every month, year over year, every month going forward, especially as mortgage rates come down. Eventually that part's going to fade. What we're kind of left with is rent. So rent, the other big portion of shelter, and rents are rising at like 9% annually. And there's not a whole lot we can do to fix that other than to build a lot of new rental units, right? So this isn't a demand problem. So shelter costs aren't overheating because of so much demand. They're high because of the Bank of Canada's own actions and because we don't have nearly enough supply of housing.